Hello guys, welcome to StudyIQ. My name is Amit Sani and I welcome you in this daily Hindu analysis video. In the morning these videos come, in the evening the PIB videos come, both in Hindi and English. Daily you get these lessons. So do not miss any of the lesson. We are discussing more than 10 to 12-13 questions every day, and these are extremely exam oriented questions, and their importance you will feel in the examination hall because these are covering the most important sources of current affairs, and PIB, the Indian Express, the Hindu paper, and other important government websites and all that I am searching for, and I'm framing these questions. So let's start the lesson. Before that, these are the important video courses by StudyIQ, and visit the website here. Look for these courses, saving lakhs of your rupees, and stay at your home, maintain your health, maintain a routine, and you will become successful in these big battles. And these courses are going to be the biggest tools and weapons there. Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite TESS. It is by NASA and it is for Exoplanet, as the abbreviation says. Kepler used to be a space observatory, now it is TESS. It's a successor to Kepler mission, and responsible for detecting most of the currently known exoplanets, means outside our solar system. And it is searching for nearby stars and the smaller planets around them, because whatever we came to know by the existing machines and existing observatories, those were the bigger exoplanets. It is searching for the smaller ones, and sometimes maybe it would search some kind of a Goldilocks planets also. Goldilocks means, the question was asked in 2014 prelims. What is a Goldilocks zone? Where the habitable conditions are available around a star. Suppose it's sun, so the Mercury, Venus, Earth and Mars. So Earth and Mars, these two are under habitable zone, means the kind of conditions of pressure, temperature, these are supportive of any kind of life. So this is called Goldilocks zone, and these kind of conditions are there around other stars also, but the life is not available there. Life is only there on Earth. So maybe life we would found, but only in the Goldilocks zone. But the ultimate aim of this test is not to find these Goldilocks planet. Its important mission is to explore these stars and explore the exoplanets. So only one is the correct answer, second is wrong here. You cannot say it is for Goldilocks zones planets. The planet SD 21749c was found by it, and it is around 89% of Earth's volume, its diameter, and it is orbiting the K-type star, that is 70% of our sun's mass. So that's important. So its first Earth-sized exoplanet that was found by TESS, orbiting 53 light years away. 1 light year means, what is 1 light year? When the ray of light that will travel for 1 year consistently, so the distance it would cover in 1 year, that would be 1 light year, and the speed of the light is 3 into 10 to power 8 meter per second, unimaginable speed, and it goes for 1 year, that is 1 light year. So unimaginable distance we cannot cover in our lifetime. So 53 light years away this planet and this important star system is, that is K-type star SD 21749. Okay, so the important thing is that these are the solutions, these are the things which are helping humanity, and we should appreciate only these kind of things. The religious things and all these discourses, extreme ideologies, they are never going to help. Only science is going to help us in the future. All solutions are lying in the truth seeking, and truth seeking is science. So that is why ISRO has been doing extremely well, and ISRO has started an important program called Samvad with Students. Okay, SWS, Samvad with Students, where it is trying to attract the school students to be interested in space sciences and other important programs. In the future, they will be much more interested in these kind of findings, and the scientific temper would be developed in our country, because the present environment in our country, that is totally against the scientific environment. People are not appreciating science. People are involved in politics. People are involved in extremities and these religious, political, mob lynching talks. All these rubbishes are going on in our society, and the maximum negative impact is there on students. So that's why appreciating science is the ultimate need today. So these kind of things are going to be very, very important in the prelims of UPSC examination also. They will certainly ask you many questions, that in these kind of environments, do you see positivity? Do you see the things that which are needed today. So how much of your focus is on these kind of things? So these will be important. Okay, so primary mission objective of TESS is to survey the brightest star near the Earth. Okay, and TESS will provide prime targets for further characterization by James Webb Space Telescope. There used to be a Hubble Space Telescope, and now it is replaced by James Webb Telescope. The honeycomb lattice-like structures you must have seen. It's a very famous James Webb Space Telescope, and it finds these exoplanets and all because it's a kind of a very big lens in the space. And this observatory, this particular telescope that finds these important stars, systems, galaxies and all, so it needs targets where it would project, and this TESS mission is gonna give it many targets. So that's very important, and it is gonna find the small planets around the nearest stars in the sky. Okay, next, DIPAM. It's a specific department under Ministry of Finance, not under Union Ministry of Commerce. So this is wrong. Second, target of 90,000 crore rupees is to be raised through CPS State Disinvestment in the current financial year. The name is Department of Investment and Public Asset Management. Public assets are these CPSUs because government has stakes in that, and these are state-owned entities, but they are not being profitable. They are going towards a consistent loss. That is why it becomes necessary that we sell some of their stakes and we liquidate these assets so that the money should come. So actually we are selling our own assets. If there is a possibility that we can revive them, then we should go for that. But if there are possibilities of revival but still we are going to sell these stakes, then it's a problem. So we have created a particular department for this disinvestment and investment mainly. The name is investment, but it is more disinvestment these days. They are actually celebrating these targets that 90,000 crore rupees. Earlier, last year it was around 80,000 crore, now 90,000 crore, and next year there may be bigger targets. Means we are setting targets of bigger selling of our own stakes. But things have become necessary because these PSUs are running very huge losses, and that's really a problem for the economy. So we need to see that can these be revived or not, and more privatization of things we are observing these days. So are we going towards totally a capitalistic economy? But the kind of capitalism we see in India, that is also imbalanced. Many companies, many important sectors and all, they complain about the unfair practices which are going on in our market and in our economy. They are more favoring some of the business houses and all, and some are making consistent profits, and some are going towards dogs. Say for the airline industry, many are closed now, and they are going through a lot of struggle. Jet Airways is down, it is totally grounded. So privatization we have seen, but it should be fair, and the bodies like Competition Commission of India, which will be very important in this particular thing. And when this department is setting targets for these, then we need to see in the future that how much profitable these steps are. But we have certain targets, so it's a very important debate and very important questions these are. That's why I'm giving time to this. So remember that DIPAM is under Ministry of Finance, and a 90,000 crore rupees target we have set for this year. So only 2 is the correct answer. First is wrong. Next, the National Green Tribunal has formed a central monitoring committee to prepare and enforce a national plan to make over 350 river stretches pollution free. That's correct, because NGT is the prominent body that is working for that. NGT is established by NGT Act of 2010, and it's a kind of a judicial body specific tribunal, and it is giving all its judgments in the favor of environment, ecosystem, and all these balancing. And I had given you a particular list in a particular lesson that under which laws it can listen to cases. It cannot listen the Wildlife Protection Act 72's cases. It cannot listen to that, and it cannot listen to Forest Right Act of 1927. Sorry, the Forest Act of 1927. Okay, so Wildlife Protection Act of 72 and the Forest Act of 1927. In both these cases, under both these laws, it cannot listen to cases and it cannot give its judgments. Otherwise, the Water Act, Environmental Protection Act, Air Act, in all of these important laws, it can give its decrees. So that's important. So D is the answer here. And recently it formed the Central Monitoring Committee, and the representative of Niti Aayog, secretaries of Ministry of Water, Ministry of Urban Development Ministry, and Ministry of Environment, DGs of National Mission for Clean Ganga, CPCB, they all are important stakeholders under it. And you see the Mission for Clean Ganga, the Namami Gange program, that has won a Public Water Agency of the Year award. Okay, so that's gonna be very important this year. National Ganga Council and National Ganga Order was there in 2016. After that, the program is going on, and this NGCA, National Ganga Mission for Clean Ganga, NMCG, is the most important thing since then. And this year it has won the Public Water Agency Award. Next, Quad Group, Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. USA, India, Australia, and Japan. These 4 countries are there. China is not the part. It was created importantly to counter China's influence in the Indian Ocean region. So that is why these 4 countries are there. So 1, 3, 4 is the answer. Second is wrong. And in 2007, Shinzo Abe actually proposed this, initiated this. Then Dick Cheney of USA and Australia's Prime Minister John Howard and Manmohan Singh from India, they joined hands, and exercise Malabar became much more important because it's one of the biggest exercise in the Indian Ocean region, and USA, Japan, and Australia, they all are taking part under it. Malabar is the coast of India, western coast of peninsular India. Kerala coast is called Malabar coast, and the name is given on that, exercise Malabar. Next, IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association, headquartered at Port Louis, Mauritius. No, it is Mauritius, but the city is Abin, not Port Louis. Port Louis is the capital of Mauritius, so this is wrong. Second, China and Russia are not associated with it. This is wrong because China is a dialogue partner, although it's not a member, but China is a dialogue partner, so China is associated with that, so this is wrong. Basically, it was started by South Africa and India. That is perfectly correct, because Nelson Mandela visited in India, and in 1997 we actually started Indian Ocean Rim Association. That has become very, very important, and this year you may have a question, because India's External Affairs Ministry that has created a Indian Ocean Wing. That's very important. So 3 only is the correct answer here, and you can see 22 members here, and China, Germany, Japan, UK, USA, France, Egypt, all are dialogue partners, and importantly Russia is nowhere there. And this is all Indian Ocean Rim Association. Okay, and Indian Ocean Tourism Organization and Indian Ocean Research Group, they have observer status here, and 7 dialogue partners. Next, Ibn Mauritius is the place, and Pik Botha was the person, South African Foreign Minister in 1993, who was very important in establishing this. And January 1995, Nelson Mandela brought a presidential visit to India. He was the president of South Africa at that time, and after that in 1997 it was established. Next, Gobi Desert. Yesterday we discussed that a simulation of Mars conditions were created in Gobi Desert, so this question may appear. And always these important bodies, bigger water bodies, or these oceans, or some kind of sea or lake or a particular desert, look the situations around. Gobi Desert is here, so you must have this idea that which are the countries which are located on north part of the world map or southern part of the world map, around where they are located. So you see Poland is located in the north, South Korea is in the south, and Afghanistan remains far away, and actually Kazakhstan, this is the important area located on the same latitude here. So Kazakhstan only would be the correct answer here. Otherwise all these 3 are not located on the same latitude. So 3 only is the correct answer here. Now these are the words that I found today, and try them into sentences. Now this is on political lines criticizing the government and its performance in the last 5 years. So you should read about that, and we will not discuss that. This article is important. Situation of international affairs center is there in Libya, Tripoli. The disturbance is going on, and the coup has been there, and a lot of disturbances are going on since 2011. and many countries of Middle East, they have seen this kind of fate, and Yemen crisis, Syrian crisis, Tunisia crisis, Libyan crisis, all things were there in the past. So related to that, there is a particular intention explaining issue, and there is a particular status quo explanation is given in this article. So GS paper 2 international affairs would be very, very important here. We will discuss these two articles. Both are important for economy, GS paper 3, and this China situation, that is also important for GS paper 2 and 3. Okay, so we will discuss that. These are not important for us. You should read about these things because a lot of things we have discussed. Okay, now hard landing. Jet Airways aircrafts, they are grounded, no more operations. Banks have denied for any kind of lending. They are not going to support them because expression of interest in buying the airline, they were not robust, which were invited by banks. So banks are now not going to lend. So whoever is gonna buy the airlines now, because it is going for sale now, there is no option left. So the fate would be dependent on that. It is given the time till summer end and starting of October when new season would start. So till that time, if it can revive itself, then there may be some hopes, but it is actually impossible to revive before October because there is no lending, there are no investors, and the issues of air turbine fuel policies, regulations, they are all there, and the lenders and the important the owners of this particular airlines, they have stepped down totally. The collapse of jet has caused turbulence in the market and also raised some serious questions over why domestic airline industry is proving to be so perilous for an enterprise. We are appreciating actually the domestic airline sector, and we are appreciating these Udan scheme, regional connectivity scheme, RCS, and we said that these have become very, very successful, and people are getting along here, and they are more interested in flying in India. All viable gap fundings and all these things were given, but going along with all these things, troubles remain, and these airline industries, around half of them, they were struggling a lot with the pricing issues. ATF, air turbine fuel, that is around half of the cost of airline industry. Around 50% is the cost of turbine fuel. So that causes a lot of troubles, ups and downs in the pricing of ATF, that causes troubles, and more situation of competition that actually created havoc on the pricing issues and the earnings of these airline industries. Sahara Airlines, that failed, Kingfisher failed, and Air India is totally supported by government assistance now, and now the Jet Airways. So that is why I was explaining you the particular kind of a capitalism that is being evolved in India, that is not fair for half of the people, and that is much more in favor of some of the industries and all. So this is the trouble, and here a balanced approach is needed. Government would also be supported if all these airline industries are robust one and they are earning well. But you see, in this last phase where all these airline industries or these companies, they were struggling, consumers were getting profits because it was the backbiting of these companies with each other, because one was raising the price, the other one that was lowering its tariffs and all, the ticket pricing and all. So that is how they all were struggling with each other with the pricing issues. So the margin, that was not much, and all these airline industries, half of them, they are now gone to the docks, and that's the trouble. So we need to see what the future would be with these airline industries and all, and what kind of developments we would see. Regarding the Air India's fate, it is almost decided that it is going to be privatized, or they are going to sell the stakes and all, and these private other companies also crying for help. And you see what government can do here. Center can help too by reviewing fuel taxes, surcharges apart from airport levies, and which the airlines complaint are too high, means these things are against their progress because these were too much. And The rich companies and all, they can survive with these things, but the struggling ones who are having pricing issues and they are actually not able to compete in these adverse conditions, and consumer centered approaches are going on, so they are finding them too high. So these are the steps that government can do. They can lower all these levies and tariffs. So that is all that can be done. Next, Beijing surprise. Against the expectations, or we may say that more than the expectations, Chinese economy is growing. They are giving these stats that in the last 3 months, in the first quarter of this year, they have grown more than 6.4%. The economists' expectation was of 6.3% expansion, but now it is 6.4%. And although this is somehow struggling a phase, because in 2017 December it was 6.8% recorded, and now they have come to 6.4%, but they are more than the expectation. And the issue remains that domestic consumption is rising for the China, and issues with the USA, they are also getting resolved slowly. So it's a kind of a positive phase, but at the same time they need to be very, very careful about the cycle of the economy, because it's an overheated economy right now. What is overheated means? Demand is somehow high, production is less, and the investment is also less. So interest rates, they are bringing down, so more credit would be available to the companies. So this phase, you may say, will come for a booming phase, and in this phase more and more credit would be distributed. All these companies, they will take heavy loans, and there is a hope that the economy would have a push because of the higher production and the demand supply situation. So if this goes well, then it would be a good growth. But if this does not go well, and the economy is not getting a boost even after that, then the cycle would go towards a negative phase, a phase of recession and stress. And in that phase, it would be much more difficult for the banks to get their loans back, and it would be very, very difficult for the companies who are taking loans today, that they would be able to pay them back. The situation we have seen in India, it was a booming phase after 2005 in India, and till 2012 it was the same phase. So companies and all, they took heavy loans, and banks were ready to give loans because it was the booming situation, but nobody cared that it's a cycle, it changes. And after that, all these issues came. World economy was not growing, that growth was almost nil in the world trade, so it was a negative phase again. And now the twin balance sheet problem that came, companies were not able to repay their loans, banks are struggling with the NPA situation a lot. So this may happen with China also. It's a speculation. So for that, China need to be careful, and how they are going to manage the situation, that is up to their own decision making. But right now they are progressing. The CSI 300 index, the way we have BSE, National Stock Exchange in India, they have CSI 300 in China. So that is rising by over a third in value since the beginning of the year. So it is the explanation of Chinese economy and the ongoing phase. Okay. Next, predictable chaos in Libya. In this particular article, it explains the situation of Libya, and it says that it's a symbolic situation, because whatever is going on after the second Gulf War. Second Gulf War was the Iraq War, 2003 to 11. It went on. In 11, Gaddafi, that was disposed of, people killed him on the street, and it was all a chaos like situation after that. They promised a lot of situation, the NATO forces, America, they all supported for a government that is responsible, democratic process would be there, prosperity would be there, and the people's aspirations, they would be fulfilled. All these promises were there, but after that, what happened? They actually left a vacuum, as they are living in Afghanistan, as they left in Syria, and as they are doing with a lot of Middle East countries. All are third world countries. So they are leaving vacuum there, and in this vacuum, it is filled by organized criminal groups, extremist groups like ISIS and all, and they are creating havoc on the normal people, because they actually ignored the symptoms when they were developing. And when these countries were prosperous, we talk about Syria, we talk about Libya, we talk about Iraq, all were prosperous countries, and symptoms were there that people are happy, but these bigger countries, they are focusing on them, focusing on their growth and focusing on their leaders, because they were opposing somehow American policies. This was the similar thing in all the cases. The Iraq leader Saddam Hussein was targeting America, Gaddafi was against America, and it was targeting the leaders and all. So America never likes that, and the NATO forces, they can never allow these kind of leaders to grow in this world in stature. So they brought these kind of excuses that human intervention is needed, people are being suppressed, world media, the Western media mainly, they are running a great nexus with these forces, bigger forces, and they showed that the people are living under a crisis like situation, and it is all legitimate to intervene in their affairs. Although United Nations till 1990, it actually advocated for the sovereignty, but after that, in the name of neoliberalism, in the name of the human rights protection, they attacked these countries, and the war on terror, that was totally legitimate for America after the 9/11 attacks. So they devastated all these countries, but what after that? They did not have any kind of plan. Even Barack Obama had to accept this thing, that we did not have any kind of plan after Gaddafi's disposal. So now the Tripoli government, or the Tripoli is the capital of Libya, that commands no security forces, public administration scarcely exists, water, petrol, power shortages abound, and few banks operate. Thousands are fleeing towards Tunisia, and 180 people have been killed so far in the recent fighting. And the Khalifa Haftar, the military leader that has taken the reins, and he has totally dominated the eastern part of Libya, which is having majorly the oil fields of Libya, and now he is moving towards western part, where already many disturbances are there. So it's a very tragic situation for a country like Libya, where the situations were really good. Free healthcare was there, education was free, high female literacy rate, high percentage of women in the workplace was there, standard of living was highest in Africa, and they created the world's largest irrigation project in the desert area. So it was a prosperous country, but somehow the allegations were there, and you see the leader that Gaddafi was, for the country, as the progressive country, it was good, it looked good, but he was the absolute leader for sure. He did not believe in democracy, that was for sure. And because of that situation, these countries, NATO forces, they found this opportunity and they attacked Libya. So these symptoms, all other countries, especially the third world countries, and India is also a part of it, we all should be aware about these situations. When situations develop in a way where some absolute leaders and all, they are rising in these countries, because this was the common scene in all these countries. Some hero-like leaders were rising, and they started taking reins of everything in their hands, and democratic processes, they were somehow troubled, and the collective voices were not there. Voices of some leaders were visible in these countries. Gaddafi in Libya, Saddam Hussein in Iraq, and in Syria it was Bashar al-Assad and all. So this was the similar situation everywhere, and these countries were targeted, and these bigger countries, they played their games there. That was very easy for them. Okay, so all countries, mainly the third world countries, they should be very much aware of these countries, especially the P5 countries. They are much more smart, and they are actually surviving for their own interests. They can do anything to get their interests and get their particular targets fulfilled. So whatever they did with these countries, these are the symptoms. Okay, and when they are creating havocs, and after that they are all concentrated on withdrawals, they do not care about the future of that country. That's the most problematic thing. And now Afghanistan is the next target, according to the writer, that these kind of situations they would see in Afghanistan, and that is a nearby area, and India would be affected for sure. Afghanistan is problematic, and Pakistan is going through this economical crisis, so it can be very, very vulnerable if these kind of developments are there in Afghanistan as the next phase. So we need to be very, very careful here, and all the countries, they should be aware of all the symptoms which are developing in their countries. If things are not going towards a balanced way, a collective political approach in the country, and if the country is in a way appreciating extremist ideologies and all, then these kind of symptoms are very troublesome in the future. That is the learning from these countries, okay, because the activists with right based agendas joined the political mainstream in these countries. Western outrage showed televised suffering in the world, and these people, they were supported by NATO forces in all these areas, and ultimately the disaster happened, and now these countries are devastated. So that's the situation. And they say that Kosovo was the place in Europe. There also these kind of things were done, but they even could not establish a democratic process in Kosovo. Then how can they understand the situation of these third world countries where cultures are totally different, religious ideas are totally different, and the processes are totally different? How they can understand their inner situation, and how can they establish a peaceful democratic process there? So they can only create devastation. They cannot establish proper systems there, and ultimately the criminals, the important powerful people, or maybe the military coups and all are there, and they are replacing the democratic processes after they leave the place, after the vacuum is created. So that is the situation here. Next, CSIR plans genome sequencing. You see, our body is made up of organs, and organs are made up of tissues. Tissues are made up of cells. Cells are made up of important cellular organelles, and in the nucleus there are chromosomes. On the chromosomes there are DNAs. DNAs are having genes. There are 3.6 billion base pairs of these nitrogenous bases and all, and genes are certainly there, and we are mapping these genes. You see, whatever is going to happen with my body, what is my response to some disease, what is my response to medicines, what is my response to virus, bacteria, their interaction, and what kind of looks I would have, what kind of growth I would have, what is going to be the height, what is going to be the hairs of mine, all things are decided by genes. So it can give you revolutionary informations about demographies. Now the things are cheaper, so we can go for these large scale genomic mapping and all these kind of revolutionary steps, and they can certainly solve many puzzles of the demographies, okay. And the important medical sector is gonna be helped here a lot, because certain mutations, certain medicines, what kind of impact are there, disease like thalassemia, and which are genes based, a small amount of change in genes that can bring very dangerous disease like cystic fibrosis, thalassemia, all these things, and the disease like cancer and all, they may have solutions with the genomic mapping. So this is going to be done by CSIR and its labs. There are various labs under CSIR all over India. IGIB is a type of it, Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology. It's a CSIR laboratory. And one more institution is very important here, Cellular and Molecular Biology, CCMB, and it is there in Hyderabad. So look for their headquarters and where these are located. That is also very important. Okay. Next, plea in SC on voting rights. You see, there is a section 62(5) of the RPA Act. It says that if the person is under lawful custody, if he is in prison, then he cannot vote. But that's problematic, because maybe many innocent people are locked there, and their trials are pending, and they are not confirmed that they have done some crime or not. So maybe these are innocent people, and wrongfully they are convicted here. So they should have voting rights. So according to Article 3 to 6, there should be equality in voting rights, and this particular section is arbitrary, opposing this Article 3 to 6 provisions. So this plea is there in Supreme Court now, that if the person is not given the ultimate sentence, then he should vote. He should have the right to vote. So that is the issue, and that's going on. So they may ask you about this section 62(5), Article 3 to 6, and the right of jail inmates. These are the questions, some previous year questions I have given you today, and these are going to be relevant this year also. So do not miss to learn additional details about them. Extremely important questions these are. Thanks a lot. Keep watching. It was Amit Saini. You will find the PDF here on the group and the Telegram channel of StudyIQ.